this video, we're going to check out the sequencer basics of the Polyend tracker. It's recommended that if you want to understand all of these features, to watch these videos once a day until these things become second nature. Even if you take out 5 minutes a day, you'll see big results in no time. So we're going to start from the very basics, and we're going to build our way up from there. I'm going to hyper-focus on each aspect. I'm keeping it as simple as possible so that you'll be able to master this from a very fundamental level. Let's turn it on. Make sure to save if you already have a project open. Press File, and then Save As. Then you press Save, and enter in the name of what the file is. So I'm going to press Save. Do you want to overwrite? And I'm going to choose Overwrite, and now it'll save the project. So now what we're going to do is create a new project. I'm going to press New Project right here. Now we're just going to press Save As, press Save, and now we're just going to name it. Let's just choose Auto Name here. Valuable Chickens, Painstaking Songs, Flat Throne, Coast Beds, Intelligent Eggnog. Let's just call it that. Press Save. Okay, so now it's all saved. Hold Master and turn the dial to adjust the master volume, or with the arrow keys. Notice when I let go, the screen returns back to where it was. I can also just tap it, and we're still in that menu. If we want to change tempo, hold Song and turn the dial, or arrows up or down. Hold down Shift, we can adjust a very fine-tuned tempo. We have to choose the sounds that we will be using. In this video, we're going to be making basic melodic synth instruments using single cycle waveforms. We'll explore making beats in later episodes. The point of this is that so you can learn how to model your own sounds without getting lost in sample seeking. So I'm going to press Sample Loader, and we can see two sections here. We can see it selected with the red line, so I can arrow left or right to choose which section we're looking at. The left-hand side is the SD card directory, and the right-hand side are instrument slots in our project. We can navigate up or down using the arrow keys or the dial. If we're far down in the folder, for example, and want to go back all the way to the top, just press left, and it'll snap up to the top. So first what we want to do is choose a slot. Think about what pad you want it to be lined up to when you're assigning it. Now let's go through our samples. So for me, I'm just going to go down to Samples, press Enter. Then I'll go to my directory. You can enter in by pressing Insert. That's almost like your Enter key. So I'm going to press Enter. And then we're going to go to akwf. You can install this on your SD card. So we're going into a folder here, and we're just going to choose any of these. We only hear a little click if I press Preview. So we're just going to have to load it in. So instruments, we're going to have slot 1, add. Now we can see it's loaded in. I can also, let's go to the next one. Let's choose this one and choose add next. What that's going to do, it's going to add this and then go down a slot. And then I can choose another one, add next, etc. Or I can also hold down Shift and select multiple WAV files. Choose add next. Now it's going to load all of those in. Now I want to get rid of all those, so I'm going to hold down Shift and select all the way up to here. We're going to press Delete. This action will delete the instruments. Do you want to continue? Yes. So those are all gone, and now we're just at the top slot. So we can also rename this if we want. So rename Auto Name. Wood Cows. Okay, let's just call it Wood Cows. Now what we have to do is press Sample Playback. Now here we see a lot of different modes. We want to keep things very simple for now. So we're just going to choose Forward Loop. This will loop the waveform as you can see in here. We can hear it's playing a note, and we can also see it. Whenever we want to mold our currently selected instrument, you're going to see up here 1 Wood Cows. Just press Instrument Parameters, and we can switch between two different screens. We see Instrument Parameters 1 of 2. Press it again. We see Instrument Automation 2 of 2. We're going to switch back to this first screen. We can audition the instrument by pressing the pads. So we can navigate this menu using the arrow keys, and we can see the red menu moving every time I push left or right. We can also use the arrow keys to change the value. So this is tuning. We're going to bring it all the way up to 24 so we can have higher notes. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to tap filter type twice. What this does is it changes the filter to low pass. Now we switch over to cutoff by pressing this, or I can arrow over. Again, we can just use the arrows to change the values or the dial. So let's press a note here. We can change the cutoff. Let's go over here, change the resonance. So now that we have the filter here, I'm going to press more, and now we can look at the effects. So what I want to do is increase the reverb, and I can audition this. You can hear that's very nice reverb, and turn up some delay. Okay, now let's go back. Now let's go to screen 2. So if we press this again, we're in instrument automation 2 of 2. Currently what we're looking at is the volume, and it has an envelope applied. And an envelope is just a ramp. So attack right here is the initial ramp. Then it goes down to decay to the sustain level, which is just the volume. And then release is the off ramp. We want to make a pluck sound, so we're going to bring down attack all the way and sustain all the way down. Let's increase decay just a little bit. So we can also apply the filter to an envelope. So it's the same thing. We're just taking your destination, cutoff, and we're going to choose envelope. And now let's go do the same controls. So attack and sustain down, decay we can turn up. We can also, if we want to change multiple options, we hold them down and it'll change. So it's just a little bit of release, a little bit of decay. So the amount here is pretty high. So let's just turn it down. Go back, can change cutoff. Let's turn up resonance, turn down cutoff. So we want to look over here at the arrow keys and the dial. This is where you want your hand to be most of the time because you're going to develop a workflow around this area. You can see the arrow keys here and the insert, which is about the same as the enter key on a keyboard. We also see shift, which will apply the upper commands, paste, home, backspace. All of these buttons up here goes to a different screen, and they all have different functions. And here is the pattern screen. So no matter where you are and you want to jump back to home base, just press pattern and here we are. So on this screen here, we can see what pattern number we're in. We can see the time and position of the song. If I press play here, it's actually going to show the progression of the time. It shows that it's going to loop, and it shows the cursor position. On this side, we can see currently selected instrument or effects depending on what column we're in. Here's the track numbers. We can only see 4 tracks, so we can navigate to the other tracks just by arrowing over to them. Let's navigate back to track 1. Now along both sides here, we can see what step number we're in. Each track has 4 different types of elements, and those parameters are the colored buttons here. So note, instrument, effects 1, and effects 2. So in this view, we can see only 4 tracks, but we can see all 4 of the columns per track. Now, if you hold down any of these, you can see a list of choices here. So this is note, and this shows this is a reflection of all of these pads down here. So I can dial the note, I can arrow it in, or I can just press it, and I can actually hear a preview of it. So if you're trying to find a note, you can do it that way, and then just let go. Now the layout of the pads I set up in the config menu. So I go to config, project settings, and then we can see what scale, where the root note is. I'm going to change the root note. We're going to make it all the way to C4. Mine is set to chromatic, C4, pads layout 12. So in other words, if I go in the pattern here, these are octaves. So that's a C, and that's a black key, and then D, black key, E, F, black key, G, black key, A, black key, B. Let's go back into Sample Loader. What I want to do is copy and then Shift, paste. Now I want to go over to here and just choose any random one. We'll just add. Then it'll say the action will replace the instrument. Do you want to continue? Yes. So it just changed the sample. Let's go into instrument parameters. Page 1. Now it's just a different tone altogether. Let's switch instrument. You can go arrow up, or you can dial it, or press the pad. And when you press the pad, you can hear a preview of it. So let's go back to pattern. If I hold down an instrument, you can select the instruments that you want to use. If you want to hear it, you just press the pad, and then you'll be able to hear a preview of it. Now effects 1 or 2, it's the same. You just press effects 1, and we can see a list of effects. Down here we see description. If you look over here, it explains what that parameter does. You can just remove it by pressing it again, any of these buttons. So if you find you have a favorite effects, you just press the pad and just remember that pad. If we want to show all 8 tracks at the same time, we can. So I can hold down pattern, you can press even a single one. Now we can see all 8 tracks with only the note showing. I can also choose note and instrument, and now we can see it shows each track with that. I could choose any combination of these 2 parameters. If I want to just go back to the regular view, press pattern, and then we're back into the zoomed in section where we can see all 4 columns. Now along the bottom here, we can see multiple options. Each one aligns with the button below it. Notice in the far right, it says more. If I press it, we can see another screen of options. If you notice, a lot of these grayed out sections are grayed out because they're editing functions, which are only enabled by pressing record. So now we're in edit view. Now let's look in depth at the fundamentals of pattern. This is an important thing to keep your first attention on the cursor here. It's green, which means it's in play mode. If we press play, we can see it scrolls through with the cursor position. When it's stopped, we can turn the dial and it will scroll through the steps. Now the pads down here will audition the currently selected instrument. So when we want to go into edit mode, press record. Now we can see the cursor is red. If we press play, we'll see the cursor does not follow the pattern position. If you want to change a specific part of the pattern but don't know which step it's at, you can ride the cursor to a specific step by pressing record. As it plays, you can press record and then you can start working from there. Now this is the most important part of this, which mode we're in. That's your first thing you want to pay attention to. So whatever mode you're in is how it's going to function. Now second is which column we're working on. For example, if we want to choose a note and we say we're in instrument, you just look there, it's highlighting instrument. So let's say I want to enter in a note and we're in instrument column and we're not noticing that, and I press something, we're not going to hear anything because that's instrument 6. So let's press delete, and then we can go into note and then choose a note. So it's in an instrument slot now, 5. We have to change it back to whichever sound that we want to use. First, let's change the pattern length. So we can hold length down here and we can press a pad and it's locked to a specific musical length. We can change the length also by going arrow up or arrow down, or if we go left or right, it changes by multiples. It's like 16 step pattern, 32, 48, 64. So I'm just going to hold down length and choose the first pattern, and it's going to change the length to 4. So here's 4 steps. Now we're going to fill those with notes. Press notes, make sure we're in the notes column, and we're going to check we're in the record mode. First off, we're going to make sure step jump is set to 0. So just make sure it's set to 0. So every time we choose a note, it's not going to jump to the next step. That way we can listen as well as think of what note we want to play. So I just chose that note, and it didn't go up or down because step jump is set to 0. Let's scroll down. Another way to choose a note is hold down note, and then we can turn the dial. Also, I can dial just directly from here. Now let's just press play. Let's say I want this to be a different instrument. Hold down instrument, just press the other instrument I had loaded, and now it'll just play from that. I can also change the note. So if we're in step jump 1, it's going to advance to the next step. I'm going to choose notes here. Now I can press play and listen to it. Let's say we want it to start from step 3. Hold down shift, press play, and now it starts right from 3. So we just entered in a note here. And just be aware, every note we enter will never be released unless we turn the knob to the left. We see fade, cut, or off. Fade will fade the note out, cut will stop the note, and off will act as release to the key. So imagine any note will sustain unless it hits another note or any other fade, cut, or off. Now if we want to jump to the top of the track, say we're on the bottom of the track, jump to the top, hold down shift and press home. Now if we want to select steps to preview, let's say I just want to hear what this sounds like, I press preview and we can hear it. How about this note? So we can also transpose the notes. So I'm highlighting it, changing the note. We can play around that way. Now I can undo and redo the last steps I just did. So we can make selections and adjust from there. So I hold down shift and I change, kind of draws a box. So let's choose those. I can preview that. It just plays at once. So what I'm going to do, let's transpose it. Hear how it sounds? I can hold down shift and turn it. It'll change the octave. So I can go through, select different areas, change the octave. We can select an entire column by holding shift, press home to go to the top, hold down shift, arrow up, and now it selects the entire column. If I hold down shift and go right, or if I have it over here and press left, it will extend it that far. If we want to select the entire pattern, shift home to go to the top, shift up, up, and then the entire pattern we can see is selected. If we want to clear a section, just simply arrow key, and then we have cleared the selection. Now while this is playing, if we want to mute a track, just hold shift, and then you can mute, say track 2. Now it's just track 1. Mute both, unmute that one. So let's actually mute track 2, so we're just going to focus on this. I press more, I want to enable record. And then we can see here, we can invert. So if I select the entire column here, let's listen to what it sounds like. This is going to flip it vertically every step. So you can hear it's backwards now. Next we have duplicate patterns. So if we want to make a variation of the notes, for example, we can. So I'm going to duplicate pattern. Now I'm just going to select some notes. Let's say bring them up an octave. Let's play. Now it's just a longer pattern. We can modify things. We can press delete. We can press more, undo, and go right back to the regular view. Also, we have expand pattern. So I press that and it just adds an extra space. So it's going to be slower. We can also shrink the pattern. So it's going to cut out every step. So if I had anything in here, we play it, press shrink, it's gone now. And of course we can undo to go back if we make a mistake. Now we also have copy pattern. So that took that entire pattern and copied it into the memory. Now we have to go to a new pattern. We can navigate patterns by pressing pattern. Gray pad means that it's full. Blank pad means it's empty. And then the bright pad is what we select. We can also change the pattern by arrows. So I can go pattern 2, pattern 3, etc. going up or down. You can also change patterns by turning the dial. You can see it corresponds to the pads in the bottom. So let's hold down pattern. Let's go to 2, press more, paste pattern. Now we have the same pattern playing. So let's like transpose it. Let's make it an octave down. Okay. Now if we want to change, we can change patterns. Hold down pattern, press down for example. And it goes back to pattern 1, which we can see up here. Pattern 2. Now what we can also do is I can hold down pattern and press left. Now what that's going to do, press more, we can see here pattern 1 and it's blinking. So once I let go, it's going to change at the end of the next pattern. So it just changed pattern. Let's arrow to the right. You can change it to any pattern you want. We'll just go to 2, let go. Now what I'm going to do is press shift and unmute over here. So let's just make all these notes conditional. So I'm going to press effects 1 and then right here is chance. I could also use the arrows or scroll. And now this is 0% chance. This is 100% chance. So we'll just go right here, for example, and I'm just going to enter it in on every note. It's a chance of 51% playing. So now let's press play. You can also have fun, press note, and then we're just going to make a selection and make it an octave up. Maybe choose these, octave up. And we can just keep making changes. So now I'm going to load a previous project. It was called Awful Swing, which is an auto-named project. And now I'm just going to press open. Do you want to save changes? We'll say save. That was Intelligent Eggnog. Now it's loading the other project here. So this is about using the same things I just showed you. And we can just start with the first pattern. Now I can go in. We see instrument 1. So we see we're on instrument 1. I'm just going to change the cutoff. Let's go to the next pattern, pattern up. So just different notes. Change the cutoff, maybe turn up the resonance. Let's go into pattern, go to the next one. Turn up the resonance. Let's bring the cutoff down. Go back down one pattern. Bring down the resonance a little. Change the pattern. Let's go to the next pattern. This is a longer pattern. Let's turn off record and it'll start following it. So I want to change one of these notes. Just press record right where you want to change it. And just put in a new note. Change this note. Pattern through the next. Let's change the tempo, song, just bring that tempo down. Let go, back in the pattern. Go up. Let's change that cutoff. Turn up resonance. Let's go in. Check out this envelope here. Let's turn up the amount. Let's change that cutoff. Let's go into pattern. Go to the next one. Let's actually highlight the whole thing. Arrow up. Shift down. Let's make it go down an octave. Let's change the cutoff. Change the pattern. Turn up that cutoff. You can just have a lot of fun in here. Just play with different notes. Take your time, choose different sounds. Change the cutoff. Let's go back in here, turn up that amount. Turn down the resonance a little. Let's check it out, see what else there is. Again, let's go into effects, chants. Let's just insert in some different chances here. So now, we'll kind of make a melody based off of it. Let's choose note, select the whole pattern. Let's octave up. Change the pattern. Now notice, there's no note off here, so I'm going to put one in. That'll stop all the other notes playing on that track. So arrow over. Change the cutoff. Pattern.